In the hidden places in the free market, there are many unusual, even scary lines of work. One of them is that of the case runner. The case runner is the party engaged by a law firm to generate business. He's the party. He's not an attorney, or she is not an attorney, but that party is involved in getting a contact between a victim, let's say, of a car accident or a medical dispute or some kind of playground accident or mishap, getting that party to sign with a law firm who is the client of the case runner. Now, the problem, if it's a problem, we'll just call it that now in pencil. The problem of case runners came up in the Woodmore bus crash, which killed 6 school children. The man who is the driver of that vehicle is being sued civilly, and he's also in criminal court defending himself against charges of disregard of the lives of his passengers and violating statutes as a role in his role as a person involved in commerce and transportation under Title 55. So he's violating the rules of the road, and it's also personally civilly liable to these claims made against him. The private cases, were brought by these case runners, and Jay Kennemer watched this in horror. He is an attorney at McMahon Law Firm, has been there 17 years. He watched what was happening and the sudden results of these out of town law firms getting business among these grieving mothers and family members. Jay has been a lawyer for 25 years. He's married, and he and his wife Debbie have 2 children. One's at UT, and one is at the University of Georgia. And he's been practicing law some time, and he has gotten 10 days ago a decision in the U.S. District Court. The court is local, the U.S. District Court downtown, across from the park that's being rebuilt. The judge is from Knoxville, in the Knoxville district, Thomas Varlan, and Judge Varlan gave an opinion just a little bit more than a week ago that favored the arguments Jay makes against this practice, and that is, and the practice comes from these law firms all around the area, coming to crashes in our area here, and using police reports. So, Jay, what has happened to police reports that is the source of information of many case runners? What is the practice of case runners up to the decision by Thomas Varlan and a reaction by the city attorney's office here in Chattanooga?
Well, this actually started for me. Turned out to be a battle that I've been waging for about a year when these case runners started coming into our area. I knew that they were going down to the police offices of Collegedale and East Ridge, and mainly the city of Chattanooga, and demanding to look through each day's police reports and pull people's names, addresses, and phone numbers, personally identifying information, and then go call them out of the blue using a prepaid cell phone, only using the first name, saying that they're some bogus group like Accident Referral Service or something like that. I've got several of the recorded phone calls. And then would lie to the people, first of all, saying that the other insurance company wants them to come in for some bogus treatment, that they want them to have this treatment that is free. That's another lie. And that they're entitled to a certain amount of money. Even they were promising certain amounts of money, and within about a month was their spill. So that was all wire fraud. And I started investigating these. It really got out of hand over Memphis, and that no one did anything about it. And then it started creeping over into our area eastward, and finally 4 of them popped up in Chattanooga about 8 to 10 months ago. I really started attacking them hard. I would send my investigator through their little sham, and would find out, who the players were involved, and report them to the boards of health, the chiropractic board, the board of professional responsibility for the attorney that was supporting this scam. Usually those I found out were over in Memphis, which coincidentally is where this state's problems seem to be growing out of. And I wasn't getting any results, and not even when I'd give all the information on a silver platter to the Attorney General's office for the Division for the Unauthorized Practice of Law. So I started looking into proactive ways of trying to battle this, because no one was doing anything about it in our area, and we needed these people driven out. They're bad operations. They do prey upon victims. I've seen people with good bona fide claims ruined because they were sent through the scam, and the insurance companies know about them, so they know what to look for. If they see their names pop up, they know what's been going on. And they breached for the most part, the chiropractors and attorneys have a 30-day no contact rule. And this is just an elaborate scam to get around the 30-day no contact rule. And then they
by using a third party, is that right?
Then all of a sudden, magically, these people end up with $6,000 to $8,000 worth of charges, and that they're signed up right there on the spot with some attorney that is magically is someplace over in Memphis or far off. So that's a general description of the scheme. Now, the way I looked at attacking it is that, number one, these hidden telemarketers that they use, the contacts. There's a federal law that says there's civil penalties for each contact if they use people's private information for the purposes of solicitation. And I found a Supreme Court case that said that in this type of situation, that that's a violation of the privacy laws, the Driver's Privacy Protection Act. So I pulled that and wanted to use it as a sword, because I was going to cut the head off the snake, i.e. Prevent the unfettered raping of police reports in the lobbies of every police department across the state.
And that's a federal statute. Jay, that's a federal statute. Is that right? The Driver's Privacy Protection Act?
That is a federal statute that has been largely ignored for years. It has not been used as it should have. It does preempt state law. State law has tried to, Tennessee has tried to implement a state law that would mirror that act, but it was not being enforced, and the cities were ignoring it. So,
well, let me ask you a question, Jay. This is David Tulis. We do thank you for joining us here at 92.7 FM and 95.3 HD4. We are high definition radio, by the way, 95.3 HD4, with reaching out 60 miles. And of course, we're live online, live on Nooga.com, or NoogaRadio.com rather, and live on Facebook and YouTube. We're talking with Jay Kennemer from the McMahon Law Firm, and he has gotten a decision 10 days ago by a federal judge, Thomas Varland, that has prompted the city government here in Chattanooga to effectively close off access to police reports. Now, Jay, I've got a problem with that from a free market perspective, and here's the question: the people who are licensees of the state under Title 55, they're in commerce, right? Even though they're private parties, they are effectively in commerce by being licensees. They are in transportation, they're involved in commerce and in traffic, and they have obtained a privilege. They've given up a right to travel and have obtained a privilege of being common carriers for hire. What's wrong with that information being public record, since they're dealing with the public entity, the state, and are involved in commercial activity as licensees? Why must that information be hidden, since they are in commerce, Jay Kennemer?
Well, the names, addresses, and phone numbers are defined as personally identifying information, which under the federal act says that should be redacted from any report. Now, reports can be viewed, but they have to be redacted reports, and that has not happened. That has not been happening. They've been able to, these case runners have been able to go and flip through reports and get name, addresses, telephone numbers, and those are absolutely protected information. You got to have permission. And now there are some exceptions, and I haven't looked into whether there's an exception for the free press.
Well, that's my next question.
What is not an exception is getting that information and using it for the purposes of solicitation. Now, that's the specific issue I'm going after.
But Jay, a reporter from the Times Free Press, let's say Emmett Gienap, who's a very fine writer at the Times Free Press, or even David Tulis, who's a lesser star, no doubt, among the lights here in Chattanooga. We want a report. We want it now. We intend to solicit that person for an interview, right? We are soliciting an interview. That is for our business, right? Our business is the press. Emmett Gienap has a right to find out that person's name so he can get the story. He's soliciting an interview. Now, that's solicitation, but he's a member of the press. He's not selling that person anything. He's not trying to take that person's money, but he is asking for something. He wants that person's favor and attention. Why is that going to be blocked now with Emmett Gienap doing his great job at the Times Free Press? What's happening?
Well, that's going to be blocked unless you have some evidence of permission. Now, if you go to that person and get permission, then that's fine.
But how can you go to that person if you don't have the information?
You just cannot go and get, people's information off of a stack of police reports without some evidence of permission.
Well, how can you get that person's permission if you don't know that person's name or have a phone number? That's my question. And that person's in commerce. That's my question, Jay. That person is acting publicly, not privately, as a person with a license.
I have not. I will tell you, I have not investigated the exceptions in the Driver's Privacy Protection Act for the press. What I have been enforcing is this specific issue, which is using this for the purposes of solicitation for case running.
Okay.
And there is a Supreme Court case, Marisich versus Spears, which involved a law firm that was obtaining information for solicitation of clients. And it said specifically for this situation that the solicitation, obtaining those records from, that information from state records was a violation of the Driver's Privacy Protection Act. And that solicitation was specifically targeted in that case. And that's the U.S. Supreme Court.
Well, let me go. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead, Jay Kennemer.
So when I was looking at this issue, and Miss Woodward, who's the named plaintiff in my case, had been called, and she was not happy about it at all. Incidentally, she wasn't even injured, so it was purely an improper contact call. So that was why she was the perfect plaintiff for this action, which now has kicked off across the state. The city of Chattanooga has implemented a portal, which to go look at reports, you've got to either be the driver, passenger, or legal representative, or someone that has permission. And then you've got to certify that you fit within one of the exceptions under the Driver's Privacy Protection Act.
Well, I think there's a kind of a legal problem here, and that is that these are most people who are, except for free market travelers, Hispanics, and the poor who can't afford a driver's license, they're all traveling on the public right of way. But most people have these licenses, and they have insurance, and they have registered cars, so they're involved in commerce, and they've admitted themselves into commerce by having that equitable relationship with the state through the Department of Safety. They've applied for this. They are carriers for hire. They're common carriers. Though most people don't realize it, that's what they've done legally. They've submitted themselves. They've yielded a right and obtained a privilege. There is no right to drive a car. There's only a privilege of driving a motor vehicle. That's a privilege. And now the news, the press, and people who are in the free market, these case runners, they're trying to provide a service, and they're being blocked by Judge Varlin's ruling and the federal statute. So in one sense, you could say the listener feels relief, Jay, in the result of your work in this case, and you're a vigilant attorney, and he's glad that you're there. On the other hand, as I say, the market would say, well, these are public records, and nothing is private if you're a public person. If you're a driver, by definition, if you're a driver involved in transportation, you're a public person. you are a public person. That's a public act. That's not a private act. That's not private travel. And so, which way is it going to be? Are these people private or are they public, Jay? That's kind of my question. Your case suggests that they are private when in fact legally they're not, and their records are not.
The personally identifying information is absolutely private. It's just never been enforced. It's being enforced now. Now the action reports themselves are public record, except for the personally identifying information, which is going to be redacted from now on. Now that's exactly
what if
definition of personally identifying information. I understand that you want to have unfettered. If you want to have unfettered access, you're using the use in commerce or the Commerce Clause as justification for getting individuals personally identifying information. But when you look at a trucking company, you can pull up the TDOT and you can get the company. Doesn't mean you get the driver's name and address and phone number.
Can I get the owner's name and phone number from that?
On the company you want.
So if a company is not private, obviously. So if I go to, let's say I go to McMahon Law Firm, which is is that a partnership? Well, you're registered with the state.
Yeah, it's a corporation.
Okay, so it's a corporation. So I can find at the Secretary of State's office the name and phone number and address of the founders and the owners, right? Because you are in public. But I can't do it if you're a driver in the driver context.
You won't find names. You won't find phone numbers, but you can look at phone numbers on the state's website. You'll see the registered agent, and then you can do some more investigation or get a copy of the articles of incorporation if you want to see who the incorporators are. So that's all you can do with the state portal on the
this is David.
search.
This is David Tulis. Thanks for joining us. We're talking with Jay Kennemer, who's an attorney with McMahon Law Firm and has had big success in the past 10 days with the ruling from a federal judge that has prompted the city to close its part of the detail on the portal for accident reports, the reports that had been used by case runners that are bringing business to Memphis law firms and others seeking to sue in the courts here in the county. This matter has developed out of the Woodmore bus crash in 2016. Well, Jay, let me ask you this: since you have a genuine sense of civic concern, what about the press? Where is Emmett Gienap at the Time Free Press, the courts reporter there? How is he going to be stymied by this change? What remedies might be available for him to get the news to the readers of the Time Free Press and other outlets as well, Jay?
Well, I've been in touch with the Times Free Press throughout this. Zach Peterson's actually reported on my case. I have not heard that they were going to have any type of issue at this point. Police reports are still viewable. Just to get a name, address, and phone number, you've got to have some evidence of permission. I have not heard any adverse, description or.
Let me ask you one more quick question.
Times Free Press that I've been in contact.
What if
they've been trying to pursue when I was handing over the information on the Woodmore case runners.
Let me ask you one more quick question.
The Attorney General's office actually reported on that. I haven't seen that there's going to be much. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of burden, but there's still ways of finding people. And
let me ask you a question, Jay. Let me ask you a question. Hang on,
or what have you? That's not redacted from police
Hang on.
reports.
Take a breath, Jay. One quick question: What if an insurance company wants to advertise on my radio station and says we're soliciting? If you've been in a car accident, please call us. Or let's say a law firm advertises for a car accident. Is that wrong? If a law firm advertises for car accident victims on my radio station or TV3, is that a problem? Get Gary. Is there a problem with Get Gary?
As they're not going to the police station and trying to get people's protected information and use it for the purpose of solicitation.
Well, Jay Kennemer, thank you so much for joining my list for me here on Nooga Radio. Thank you very much.
Certainly.
Appreciate your time.
Have a good day.
This is David Tulis, and we've been talking with Jay Kennemer of McMahon Law Firm. about the success that he's had in litigation that has closed the details on police accident reports, no names, no phone number, and no address of people who are involved in public accidents by supervised by public entities such as the police departments in public, because they're in commerce being licensees with the state through their driver licenses, the registration of their cars in commerce with the state. So this is an interesting question. And the question I have is about the freedom of the press. Can we get the information, if we're hot on the story, from the police department, which is your public servant serving Mayor Andy Burke? Can we get that information, or are we going to be stymied and the news not get out on account of this success from this legal effort by Jay Kennemer to get the federal law enforced on driver privacy? David Tulis.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooganomics.